Welcome to the CEO Sit Down series. We have something very special for you today. For all of you looking at starting permanent jewelry, or for those of you who are already invested and maybe need some help getting your investment off the ground, wherever you are in your permanent jewelry journey, tune in because we have an exclusive look at the story, tips, and advice for you from the best in the business. Sarah Sides, the founder and CEO of Weld, is here with us today. If you think about the biggest global players in the permanent jewelry space, Weld is at the top. Founded in 2020, Weld has grown nationwide with hundreds of welders trained and thousands of customers served. Weld specializes in creating permanent bracelets, necklaces, anklets, and rings that often signify a special someone, bond, or event in your life. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, Kate. I'm excited to be here today.
We're so excited to have you. And also joining us today, we have Hannah Wedeking, the co-founder and CEO of Permanent Jewelry Solutions, or PJS. Welcome, Hannah.
Hello.
The sister company of Weld, PJS helps business owners and budding entrepreneurs grow revenue through permanent jewelry by taking the guesswork out of their investment through real-life expertise, sharing everything they've learned from how to price bracelets and how to shop for chain and how to train a team member. We should be thanking them because Permanent Jewelry Solutions is helping keep the permanent jewelry industry growing and thriving through entrepreneurs like you all. Thank you both so much for joining us. Sarah, we will start with you. As the founder and CEO of the biggest permanent jewelry retailer in the world, Sarah, can you share a bit about your personal journey and how it led you to found Weld?
Yeah, I mean, it started back. I've been in the jewelry industry for over a decade now. Prior to Weld, I worked for an international fair trade company and spent a lot of time traveling all over the world to really study master craftsmen and come alongside them and develop a product line for the US. And in that, kind of really saw a through line globally of what jewelry meant generation to generation. And oftentimes in cultures, it was used to tell stories, and people would wear jewelry as a symbol of something that either represented their history or their own personal identity. And it was sort of that concept, that idea, that combined when I saw early tricklings of what is permanent jewelry today. Actually, when Weld started, permanent jewelry wasn't a term. There was no curriculum on this is how you start a permanent jewelry business. There was no training. There was no best practices. And so I first started seeing what was like the early parts of permanent jewelry there was a gal in LA taking a blowtorch and wrapping people's wrists in fire cloths and torching it on their wrist. And to me, it was really cool. And it was same as what I saw internationally. These women were getting these bangles put on to tell their story or to celebrate or commemorate. And that was really beautiful to me. And so in doing further research, there was a place in Paris that was doing something more similar to what is permanent jewelry today. And that kind of created the full picture for me of like, oh, this is how you do it. And so it was the idea of chains and charms and using those to create pieces unique to the wearer that they could wear over time to tell their stories. So that was the early process and origin for Weld.
Thank you so much for sharing. Could you, just for the audience who is newer to permanent jewelry or maybe has heard of the term but isn't really clear on what it is, could you tell everybody once and for all what is permanent jewelry?
Yeah, and just as like a side note, when trying to decide what to call what this is in the early day, like I said, it wasn't really a thing. We used, I landed on for Weld Forever Bound, and we actually use that quite a bit within Weld because the idea of permanent feels so big, like a tattoo, or you permanently get plastic surgery. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things that like is irreversible. It's so I now use it because the world and TikTok has led us to use it. And if you can't beat them, join them. But essentially, it is clasp-free jewelry that you wear, and it's bonded by an arc welder safely on the person. So no blowtorch. It's just a really neat modern technology that allows you to focus the energy that welds the bracelet together in a very safe and concise manner. And that is permanent jewelry. You can remove it if you want to or add a closure, but it is a fun idea that it lives with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Can you share the story behind Love Weld's rapid expansion from a single storefront to over 15 locations in just 4 years?
Kate, how much time do we have? Because I have so many stories. And one thing I just want to really, one thing I want to get across is that it's a lot of people's stories, and it was a lot of work and effort with a number of women that were passionate about storytelling, jewelry, crafting, and creating pieces, and really hosting connection is really the heart of the Lovewell brand. And so, but for the sake of people curious and to do something condensed, when starting Loveweld, I did not start it thinking it was going to be a national brand. In fact, I started in my garage studio. I was transitioning from doing a full-time designer role. My husband was getting his MBA. I had a baby and a toddler. It was COVID. And so for me, permanent jewelry was just this extreme curiosity and this like new iteration for jewelry for me. And but why it expanded and why it grew is that when really unfolding what the brand was, the heart of it, like what it did for not only my clients, but also my team, was like, this has to grow. This is bigger than me. My parents are entrepreneurs, so I'm very aware of what it means to own a multi-location retail brand. And so it was a little resistant to expansion for the first couple of years, but it just kind of kept happening. Like the right person came along wanting to build the business with me. And so it first started with my best friend and my sister-in-law and sister, multiplying us from 1 to 4 locations. And we just loved the work. We loved getting to craft our own jewelry. We are a party brand, so we host lots of party. There's always bubbly and food and good times involved. And that really resonated with our client and with the communities that we were in, as well as partners that we partnered with through the way. So before you knew it, within a year and a half, we had 4 locations, and there was a opportunity to partner with some innovative department stores that took us from 4 to 8 locations in a 6-week period. And at that point in time was a bit of a crossroads for me and my team. Like, where do we take this? How big do we make it? And we just thought, in a world, in a society where connection and being able to converse and have something tangible, physical, felt really important in the moment, especially post-COVID. And so we're like, we gotta keep moving. We gotta keep doing this. So before we knew it, we had 12 locations, and I think actually 9 of them are storefronts. So our own 4 walls retail Lovewell experience.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's certainly impressive. I think anybody would say that. The customer experience is central to the success of a permanent jewelry business. I think it's fair to say. Could you share a memorable customer success story that highlights the impact of Loveweld's permanent jewelry services?
Yeah. So many. One that really stuck out to me and actually ended up creating a program which I'll also share about within Loveweld was I was in New York and welding, and there were these three mothers that had come in from Australia. And they found us and wanted to get permanent jewelry to commemorate their mom's trip. And they were really funny. I think Aussies have a really kind of fun personality, or not all of them, but in general, the Australian people I've met know how to have a good time. So they brought the good time with them, and we're just chatting and having fun. And um, one of the gals who looked about 6 months pregnant kept joking around about me giving her a free diamond. She's like, I'm a mom, I don't have money, like give me a diamond. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm not giving you a free diamond. But she was cute about it, and we just interacted. Retail, you always get these interesting sort of customer interactions. And her two friends went to go grab a drink from the bar, and they were getting her a soda. And as they were gone, she goes, I was welding her. And she goes, this bracelet, this trip means a lot for me. I was asking about her pregnancy. And she goes, this pregnancy has been hard. And I just asked why. As a fellow mom, I'm thinking there's lots of reasons pregnancy is hard. And she shared about a miscarriage that she had had just a year prior. And this was her rainbow baby. And she was fairly far along in her pregnancy. And so not only did she mourn the loss of the baby, but her young kids mourned the loss of this baby, her husband, and the community. And so with that, there was a lot of emotions to process, grief combined with this new pregnancy. And I just felt compelled, like, I want to give her this diamond, and I want her to have this diamond as, yes, it's hard right now, but there's a rainbow. There's a rainbow here, and there is something to celebrate and to just have that reminder. So I gifted her the diamond. She's crying. I'm crying. By that time, her friends have come and they're crying. And so we get a lot of that in Loveweld, and there's something really special about being able to tangibly, with a diamond, like say, I see you, and I want to celebrate what it is, whether it's hard or good in that moment. I want to celebrate that with you. And here's a token to represent that, right? And so from that, we talked as a team. It's like, okay, Sarah, the owner, can give away diamonds whenever she wants. So we ended up incorporating in our development curriculum or program for our team members, like once they hit a level of welding and interacting with customers, they're able to give away a free diamond once a month. And it's just, it could be for many things. Like we've had girls give away because it's like, hey, I keep seeing you everywhere in New York City, like the nightclubs, the dinners out, like there's something here. I see you in this busy city. Here's a diamond. Or there was another welder who was actually doing a nonprofit project for Loveweld for the Ronald McDonald House and working on that. And then a mother who was in Austin for Ronald McDonald happened to just walk in while that was top of mind. And she ended up gifting that mom a diamond. And so that's one of my favorite memories. And that is 100% my favorite part about permanent jewelry. And that is why we've grown the way we've grown. And to me, the reason to be a national brand.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very clear that getting a permanent jewelry piece is a very personal experience. What, in your mind, what are the primary reasons why customers are drawn to permanent jewelry?
Well, and I'll be honest, there's also like the good portion of customers who just thinks it's fun and it's cool and it's novel and they'll just get a piece. So, and maybe the sentimentality never comes or it comes after the fact. But um, people get them for so many reasons. I've had BFFs who had failed tattoo experiences come in, like where one got the tattoo, the other one chickened out. And so they were decided, you know what, maybe we'll do the next thing. Let's get a permanent jewelry bracelet. So it's almost like a step down in commitment for than a tattoo. So we do it, we call it the 14K tattoo. I've had a lot of treat yourself moments with clients celebrating oneself. Those are some of my favorite, since it is so deeply personal. Mothers, daughters, lots of generational welds, just a promotion, loss. We've done a lot of commemorating a lost loved one. And yeah, there's the same reason you would get a tattoo, right? Could be a reason you would get a permanent jewelry piece. And people do that for so many reasons. Some people, it's because they're addicted to having gold on their arm and they want to have more of a stack. And in fact, I'll see a lot of people stacked with welds and stacked with tattoos. And it's just like they're constantly loving to express themselves on their bodies.
Interesting. It makes me think, when you think about permanent jewelry and you think about business owners, thinking about starting permanent jewelry, it's like if somebody comes in and gets a permanent jewelry piece, is it one and done? Are they ever going to come back and get another piece? What would you say to that?
We have quite a few repeat customers. I think you have to set yourself apart on creating a reason for people to come back to you, whether that's developing your product or ensuring that your customer service is top notch, that it's not just transactional. I think, that helps with people wanting to build their stack. But yeah, it is as a woman who loves jewelry, there's a lot of practicality to permanent jewelry that keeps them coming back. So yes, some people it's one and done, but I would say the majority, when they leave the door, they're already thinking about their next piece.
Mm. So for those businesses who have invested in permanent jewelry, they're sort of up and running, but they're maybe experiencing a decline in their sales for permanent jewelry. What tips or strategies would you recommend for them?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of pieces. I would probably, in an individual owner, I'd ask what's happening. Like, are they doing any follow-up marketing? Are they reaching out to previous customers? Are they, I think even for the Lovewell business, there's different avenues that we work to continue to grow our sales or have repeat. So one would be like partnerships. Is there a fun partnership or collaboration that you could be a part of in your community? That could be anything from a nonprofit to a market to, is there, in Loveweld, we host a lot of creatives coming in, and that has been a way to just kind of grow your crowd. Digital marketing, depending on how established of your business, digital marketing makes a lot of sense. That could be through ads, that could be through your own current customer base. And I think, thinking of the reasons why people get welded and marketing with that, I think as the permanent jewelry market expands and grows and there's more competition, I think you have to get past the novelty of the experience for marketing and start stepping into marketing and talking about the reasons people get welded, so that they're like, oh yeah, grandma's birthday is coming up. I should definitely go get a birthstone piece with grandma. And that's the other thing is, initials, different stones. Charms are a great way to tell people's stories. So ensuring you have that in your product line as well.
That's very interesting and very helpful. I want to move on to sort of the future of permanent jewelry. What emerging trends do you see shaping the future of the permanent jewelry market, and how does Loveweld work to stay ahead of the curve in terms of innovation and adaptation to industry trends as it continues to grow and expand?
I love this question because this is where I live the majority of the time. Even when I started Loveweld years back, permanent jewelry looked and was very different than it is today. And I think it's going to only continue to evolve. So where I see it going, as I see right now, I think the expression of permanent jewelry can be, it's like a very, I would say it's like its first round iteration. It's first draft. So like a simple chain, a simple charm. I see as it becomes more prevalent in the marketplace that companies will begin to start thinking of their own adaptation of permanent jewelry. So where things get a little more customized, a little more unique, where they're thinking about developing the components to tell their brand story. I know this is where Loveweld very much is. And I know for PJS, this is as well. I've been working with Hannah on their customization project and how can we help businesses create more custom components and things that fit their brand. So it goes beyond just like your basic chains and can be a little more developed. There's a lot. I have been talking to some tech companies about ways to apply technology to permanent jewelry. I think there are niches of permanent jewelry, like Loveweld is not going to speak to every single reason why someone would get permanent jewelry. And so I think there could be like religious reasons people get welded. I think there could be very practical. I could see medical sort of evolutions of permanent jewelry. I think it's endless. And I think we're just at the very beginning of what permanent jewelry is going to be. And I'm excited for those innovative minds that latch onto this, because I think there's a lot of open frontier to create your own pathway in this space.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. So, Sarah and Hannah, many people may not know this, but you two are sisters. Could you tell us about what inspired you to establish Permanent Jewelry Solutions together?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Love Weld kind of near the beginning, not at the very beginning, but near the beginning. And yeah, I come from a different background for sure. I don't come from jewelry. I come from more people, positions and things like that, which is what drew me to Love Weld. And I think through that, we just established so many connections with different people at different, I mean, my very first pop-up event, I was in Austin learning how to do all of this with Sarah, and we're at this amazing local Austin designers shop. And just like, I loved hanging out with the people that were working at this shop. And so I think just establishing these connections
It was
with different
Miranda Bennett.
Thank you. I couldn't. Miranda Bennett.
Bennett. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a dress. I mean, just loved the women that were working there. And so we just, everywhere we go, I feel like that's just kind of what happens, is we establish connections with different people. And this happened with different business owners, and businesses were reaching out to Love Weld. We want this in our store. How can we get this permanently set up? These sorts of things, because permanent jewelry was very new, and we were there and we were doing the best that we could. And so people were reaching out to us. So through that, Sarah and I really started thinking about, okay, what does this look like? How can we partner with business owners and get permanent jewelry into their stores? Because there is an opportunity. And Loveweld, as Sarah mentioned earlier in the conversation, is not going to be the permanent jewelry brand for everyone. And so how can we walk alongside people using our experience, the things that we've learned, how we failed, how we've succeeded? How can we take that and really partner with other business owners? And so that's where Permanent Jewelry Solutions came from, was this desire to connect with business owners, and whether that be they have 6 locations, they have 1 location, maybe they're just starting. But anybody who's wanting to get started with permanent jewelry, how can we take all of our experience, box it up, and assist them with that, and make that an opportunity for them to really take permanent jewelry by the horns, if you will.
So essentially, PJS is us giving 4 years of hard knocks, packaging and what we've learned, and hopefully people will not have to have the same customer safety product problem solves that we have, and we want to expedite it. We think that this concept in jewelry is really important and empowering for the people providing the service, and so we're excited to be able to do so through our wholesale arm.
Yeah.
How do Love Weld and Permanent Jewelry Solutions work together and collaborate, on an ongoing basis to provide solutions that are comprehensive to business owners, whether, they're only operating permanent jewelry or whether they're operating another business and are adding permanent jewelry to their business? How do Love Weld and PJS work together and provide solutions so that the solutions are evolving over time with the growth of Love Weld and everything that it's continuing to learn over time?
Yeah, so Hannah has a very strong operational systematic bend. And so, for me, I work primarily in the Love Weld space, and Hannah works primarily in the PJS space. And so how Love Weld supports PJS is through the learnings that we have being a multi-location all over the US sort of view into the customer side of jewelry. And so that is where Hannah really comes to the Love Weld team to really understand what that looks like. Also to understand we're working with some larger companies that, there's a difference between having like a solopreneur permanent jewelry business versus the operations of having a multi-location business where you have to have operational standards that go beyond just 1 or 2 people, right? And so that is, we test a lot for PJS. We try things for PJS. PJS has helped us with curriculum so that we can activate and lift 100+ welders and be able to work with a variety of customers. PJS helps us with the supply side for Love Weld and harnesses the kind of the main warehousing and supply chain management so that we can focus on building a brand in our experience. Hannah, is there anything else you would want to add there?
I think you covered a lot of it. I think the big thing is, Sarah and I talk probably every day. And so I think that we are able to kind of really look at this together, look at both Love Weld and PJS together. And I think we've learned so much through Love Weld and just trial and error. And so things like pop-up events and any type of pop-up event that any of our customers are at PJS are going to be attending, we've more than likely done it, or we've tried to do it, or any of those sorts of things. So I think really it's more of just the crossover of experience. We've been there, we've been able to operate as a retail company. And so we've learned so much. And so a lot of it is just sharing that information.
Yeah. For example, if you think about the technology side, right? So when you start, you're like, I'm going to do permanent jewelry, and what welder do I get? And I will say there is not one size fits all in welding machines. And so we have within the Love Weld brand strong opinions on what technology is preferred and preferenced. And it's not all the same. And so there are nuances in the welding technology, and we have various suppliers, various types of machines within the Lovewell business. And we utilize, like, we have one machine that we utilize for pop-ups, one that we do for a certain type of volume, one that we do for maybe a lower volume location or something of that nature. And so there's a lot of nuances that you don't realize are in this craft. And so I think there is a degree of knowledge of, we've tested lots of products with thousands and thousands of customers and hundreds of types of creatives and welders, and have regular feedback and understand some of those nuances.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or business owners that are looking to enter the permanent jewelry industry, whether it's starting their own business in permanent jewelry or adding permanent jewelry to a business that already exists? Yeah, what advice would you give them based upon the lessons that you've each learned?
I think the one thing that I would say is, there is a level of, you just have to start at some point. You do have to just kind of go after it. Even if you don't know the answers to all of the problems that exist or will come up. I think there's something about just being brave in doing that. I have so many consultations with PJS customers that I feel like that's just what they want to hear, is, you're brave, you can do this, and you'll have problems and you'll be able to overcome them. I would also say is that it does take work. It's not going to, permanent jewelry is trendy and it's flashy and a lot of people are flocking towards it. And I think that being able to work hard and show up for your customer in a consistent way, I would say consistency is a really big thing, at least in my experience. So those are the two things that come to mind right out of the gates. I'm sure there's other better advice I could maybe think of, but those are the first two things: is just doing it, showing up, and then working hard at it, and knowing that it's going to fluctuate. You're going to have pop-up events that you make no money, you make $0, but you also have really successful ones. And it's all part.
And you never know what's gonna be.
Sarah, what about you?
I think for the early on entrepreneur, when I first went into this business, it wasn't an industry, and there was not a confirmation of, would people even want this? But how I started is, one, just really kind of understanding, like, what is your overall spin or version of this, right? So what is going to connect permanent jewelry to you? Are you a yoga enthusiast? And so you're going to do mantra jewelry, and you're going to create a permanent jewelry brand, and you have a yoga studio, and you're going to do a permanent jewelry brand that allows you to weld their clients with their mantra of the time, right? So what is your unique spin on the concept? And it doesn't have to be like blow your mind, no one's ever heard of it before, but just like something that you can get behind and be excited about 5 years down the road, or a year, or like 2 months. I don't know. Our attention spans can be really short. So there's that. And then two, the way I started out is I was able to get, I don't know how this would work today with today's market, but I was able to get a 0% interest card to finance my permanent jewelry business. And in fact, Loveweld is self-funded, and it was funded on a $20,000 limit, 0% interest credit card. And I had 18 months to make my money back. And that was my financing. It's hard to get a loan, all of that. So like, that is what I started. And then I had a spreadsheet. And I was like, this is what it's going to cost for me to get started. I have to sell 50 or 20, or it's probably like 25 bracelets. I had to sell 25 bracelets to get my money back. And that 25 felt really scary, but I was like, I have 3 sisters that are probably going to purchase. So, hey, there's 3 bracelets right there. And so like, how do I accomplish those 25? And like, that was my focus. And that's what I went after. And then it would be, what's the next goal? How do I get my first pop-up? How do I not only weld my friends and family? And it was almost that stair step is where we grew, but it started very simple. And it started with, how do I make my money investment back, which is not hard. And actually ended up doing that fairly quickly. So I would say use the resources you have. You can dream big, but give yourself very tangible, achievable goals. And it's consistency, like Hannah said. So just doing the next thing.
If somebody were to come up to you and say, hey, I don't have a storefront, I'm not there yet. Can I offer permanent jewelry? Can I invest in permanent jewelry? Does that even make sense? Or do I need a storefront to operate? What would you say to that person?
I mean, one of the biggest permanent jewelry brands out there is Link by Lou, and it's all through home shows and pop-ups. It's so they, like Love Weld, are very early on the map and multiplied very quickly. And there's no storefronts, and they're in multi-states and have a lot of women welding in that business entity, and they haven't invested in any storefront. So I think what's nice is you could kind of pop up anywhere.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about permanent jewelry too, if you've never even been around it, just very practically, the equipment is very easy to transport, to put in your car, and jewelry is, chain is pretty small. So it's not like you're having to lug around an entire storefront, but you actually only need about, you need a table to be able to weld and to do this. So you definitely do not have to have a storefront to be able to have this service.
So we're going to move on to quality assurance. People are out there, they're thinking, okay, I feel pretty good about permanent jewelry. I'm interested in this. I think I'm ready to go ahead and get started. When they're shopping around for permanent jewelry providers, let me ask you this. How does Permanent Jewelry Solutions ensure the quality and standardization of training and services provided?
This is so important. Having been in the jewelry industry for over a decade and doing production development, working with craftsmen all over the world, quality of production, which the welder in this instance is producing the piece. So that means the training for the actual welding process is very important and thorough. And it's important to know all the nuances of creating your piece. And our curriculum has been developed on lots of feedback from customers, from welders, and evolved and tailored. So there's that. And then the product piece is essential. So I would say the trend's only going to get you so far. So if someone comes to you and they get excited about the permanent jewelry piece, but then the quality of the weld or the jewelry piece isn't as promised, that will greatly decrease the chances of someone coming back, right? So if you want to create a sustainable business with a loyal customer and a brand that people want to share with their friends and family, it is vital that you are working with quality product. And that is something that in Love Weld, we were very slow to roll out product because we want to test, we want to make sure we are very careful about our suppliers that we work with, and the same with PJS, right? So with it not being able to come off, it's very vital that it is of high quality material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there have been we could give you example after example of chain or product that we have not sold or we've taken off of the market because we didn't feel good about the quality. And so we are monitoring that both on Love Weld and PJS's side very closely. And if we don't feel good about a product, it's not going to be put on our website.
Yep. So we're slow to adopt. I mean, even When starting out with our initial product lines, we went through 100+ various chain samples, and they may all look very similar, but there's more to just, there's the look, there's the nuances. Is the finish really nice and look very rich in lux? Is it durable? Is the material what the supplier says it is? So we went through lots and lots of prototypes to land on our offerings.
I was going to reserve this question for Hannah, but I want to open it up to both of you.
Yeah.
Can you use gold-plated material or gold-plated metal for permanent jewelry?
You can use anything for permanent jewelry. Like realistically, you can. Like, you could weld on a stainless steel chain. Like, you could do anything. Would I recommend it? So in my customer service experience, beyond just Lovewell, but in the jewelry industry, metal tarnishing is going to get you customer service inquiries, upset customers quicker than anything else, as well as a broken chain or component. So you can, there's a likelihood where clients are going to come back to you and be frustrated about their piece is going to greatly increase. You know, there are different metal qualities. I think sterling silver is an amazing option because it's polishable. It's a low cost metal. Also, gold fill is an amazing hybrid vermeil for more customized components that are one of a kind. Gold fill has a lot of limitations because it has to be done in a factory setting. And so it's usually for like more mass produced products. So then you have vermeil, which is a sterling silver base that has a very, very thick plating. So it's kind of your artisanal gold fill in a way. Is a great alternative. Gold plated vermeil and gold fill are actually a gold plating. Gold plated is a very vague term, and there is no, when someone says something is gold plated, there is no regulation on how much plating is on that piece. And so usually what it means is that it is flash plated in gold, meaning that whatever factory or producer has applied just the minimal amount of gold, oftentimes on a base mixed metal. It could be copper, brass, just like a hybrid. It could contain not such great metals that you might not want to put on your skin. So there's not regulation around that term. So it could be just like a teeny tiny piece of gold that could wipe off in 2 days, you know? So
right.
I would recommend someone who really cares about the quality of piece to step away from gold plated. But you can do it.
Yeah.
And there's probably an instance where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, I think it's really important to set the right expectations for your customer as well. I think making sure that they know what they're purchasing. So if they are getting a gold plate piece, just making sure that they know what gold plate means, those sorts of things can help alleviate some of those customer inquiries. However, I do think I think people want these things to last. They're investing in something that they want there. So, and then I would also say with what you're actually welding during the welding process is a jump ring most of the time. Sometimes you're welding the chain, but it's a jump ring. And so we do recommend in that instance that jump ring only welding 14 karat gold or sterling silver, something that's less of an alloy, because it's going to give you a more consistent weld. If you're having a gold fill has an alloy of metals in it. So maybe it is some brass, maybe it is some whatever, that can mess with how consistent in the quality of your welds if you're welding that jump ring. So you can weld whatever chain you want, but we do highly, highly, highly recommend welding either a sterling silver or 14 karat yellow or white gold jump ring, which is fairly minimal in cost, but that will just help make sure that your customer is walking away with a high quality weld.
Yeah, and the reason why is that each metal welds at a different heat, right? So it's all about, you want to make sure you have the right heat setting for the metal alloy that you're doing. And so when you start getting into mixed metals, plated metals, gold fill, you do not have so much control over what heat materials you're doing. So you might be welding too hot, not hot enough. It might be, oftentimes it leads to like a superficial weld where it looks welded on the outside, but it's actually not all the way through. And so that's the reason it becomes inconsistent.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Hannah, for taking the time today. These are such juicy tidbits. We're so grateful to you, and can't wait to see what's next for Weld and PJS.
Thank you, Kate. It was fun to reminisce and share the little we know, or the lot we know. We're obsessed with permanent jewelry, if you have not noticed.
Think a lot about it, that's for sure.